The promise no one expected. The first time Emily Carter heard the stories about Daniel Brooks, she was standing outside the general store in the small ranching town of Red Creek, Wyoming. Every person seemed to have a different version of who he was. "Stay away from him, Mrs. Collins whispered. "That carpenter has a temper. They say he drove away everyone who ever cared about him," another woman added. "He keeps to himself because he's hiding something." Emily had only moved to Red Creek 2 weeks earlier after losing her father. She wasn't looking for trouble. She only wanted a quiet place to rebuild her life. Still, curiosity has a way of pulling people toward mysteries. One warm afternoon, she walked past Daniel's woodworking shop. The rhythmic sound of a hand plane smoothing fresh oak echoed through the open doorway. She paused, watching him carefully shape a rough board into something beautiful. Without looking up, Daniel said softly, "If you're planning to listen to the rumors, you don't need to stand there." Emily smiled. "What if I came to make up my own mind?" For the first time, he looked at her. His tired blue eyes held years of loneliness. "Most people don't." She stepped inside. "I'm Emily." "Daniel." Silence settled between them, broken only by the scent of fresh pine and cedar. "I've never seen anyone enjoy working with wood this much," she said. Daniel gently ran his hand across the polished tabletop he had been building. "Wood is honest," he replied. "People aren't always." That answer stayed with Emily long after she left. Over the following weeks, Emily found excuses to pass by the workshop. Sometimes she brought fresh lemonade. Sometimes homemade bread. Sometimes she simply sat nearby while Daniel worked without saying much at all. Little by little, the quiet walls around his heart began to crack. He told her about growing up with a cruel father who believed kindness made a man weak. He admitted he'd once been engaged years ago, but his fiancée had died from illness before their wedding. After that, he stopped believing happiness was meant for him. Emily never interrupted. She simply listened. And somehow, listening became the greatest gift she'd ever offered. The townspeople noticed. Soon whispers filled every corner of Red Creek. "Poor Emily. She's wasting her future. He'll only break her heart." Even Emily's closest friend warned her. "People don't change." Emily smiled gently. "Maybe they don't need to." Autumn painted the hills gold and crimson. One evening Daniel invited Emily to stay after sunset. "I made something." He uncovered a beautiful wooden music box carved with wildflowers. Inside the lid were tiny engraved words. "For the woman who reminds me life still grows after winter." Emily felt tears gather in her eyes. "No one has ever made something like this for me." Daniel looked away. "I wasn't sure if you'd like it." She closed the box carefully. "I'll treasure it forever." Weeks later, disaster struck. A violent storm swept across Red Creek. The old church roof collapsed. Several homes were damaged. The town needed skilled hands. Without hesitation, Daniel worked from sunrise until midnight repairing broken roofs, rebuilding fences, and fixing damaged barns. He never accepted payment. Emily watched him quietly. The man everyone called dangerous never once complained. By the end of the week, nearly every family had benefited from his work. Yet many still refused to thank him. Old rumors are stubborn things. One evening Emily found Daniel sitting alone outside his workshop. "You should be proud." He shrugged. "It changes nothing. It changes everything." He looked at her. "They'll never trust me." Emily gently placed her hand over his. "I do." Those 2 words carried more weight than 100 speeches. Winter arrived early. Snow covered the valley like a white blanket. Daniel continued working while Emily helped organize the town's Christmas celebration. When she suggested asking Daniel to build the Christmas stage, several people protested. "He shouldn't be involved." Emily stood before everyone. "I've watched him help every family here. He repaired your homes. He fixed your barns. He asked for nothing. If you still judge him by old stories instead of today's actions, then maybe the problem isn't Daniel. The room fell silent. No one answered. Christmas Eve arrived beneath a sky full of stars. The entire town gathered around the beautifully crafted wooden stage Daniel had built. Children laughed. Families sang. Lanterns glowed warmly against the snow. For the first time in years, Daniel wasn't standing alone. The mayor slowly approached him. "I owe you an apology." One by one, others followed. Some thanked him. Others simply shook his hand. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. Later that evening, Emily and Daniel walked through the snow-covered streets. Neither spoke for several minutes. Finally, Daniel stopped beneath an old oak tree. "I've spent years believing people only see the worst in me." Emily looked into his eyes. "I never did." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I don't have fancy words. I only know this. You walked into my workshop when everyone else walked away. You believed in me before I believed in myself." He opened the box. Inside rested a simple silver ring with tiny carved wooden roses surrounding it. "Emily Carter, will you marry me?" Tears rolled gently down her cheeks. She laughed through them. "I thought you'd never ask." "Yes. 1,000 times, yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger. Snowflakes drifted softly around them as they embraced beneath the glowing moon. The wedding took place the following spring in a meadow filled with wildflowers. Nearly the entire town attended. Not because of curiosity. Because of respect. Daniel had earned it. Emily walked down the aisle carrying the little wooden music box he had made months before. During the ceremony, she looked into his eyes and smiled. "Do you remember what everyone said about you?" Daniel chuckled. "I try not to. They were wrong." He squeezed her hand. "No, they simply hadn't met the woman who would change my life." Years passed. Together they opened a furniture workshop that became famous across Wyoming. Every piece they built carried a small carving underneath where no customer could see. It read, "True love is built the same way great craftsmanship is, patiently, honestly, and one careful piece at a time." Visitors admired the beautiful furniture. Neighbors admired the successful business. But those who truly knew Daniel and Emily admired something far greater. They had proven that love isn't found by believing what everyone says. It is found by seeing someone's heart with your own eyes. And whenever young couples asked them the secret to a lasting marriage, Emily would smile at Daniel before answering. Real love begins the moment you choose trust over rumors, kindness over fear, and someone's true character over everyone else's opinion. Daniel would always smile back because those were the words he promised he would never forget.